All right, welcome back, everybody. This is video number 3 in the series. So if you haven't seen 1 and 2, go check those out. We get into the whole plan, creating the plan, the good, bad, and ugly of the plan, and then all the milestones. And then the second video, we did the cuts, which were the hard cuts from 120 days to 60. And then we did the real cuts, which was going from 60 to 30 days, roughly. And the exercises we did to do that. Maybe we're checking out if you're on the same journey as me, which is trying to figure out how to get good at releasing games. And so today's video, we are going to talk about the go no go decision based on the POC. So let's take a look at where we're at. I'll launch it from here. And we've got our ship. The two things I wanted to do in the POC after it had been cut down from a bunch of things. I had enemies in there originally, and a mining laser in there originally, and we were going to test the interactions of all those things just to make sure that it felt good. And I assumed that it would feel fine, good enough. And then after all the cuts, the only thing I had left in there was the ship and the asteroid, and and actually it wasn't an asteroid that was moving or rotating or anything else. It was just supposed to be a static asteroid. But because I got it done so quickly, it took me like an hour to get the asteroid and the ship all working, and then I spent another hour or so getting the asteroid field work going. So I kind of jumped ahead. So you're seeing a little bit of that here. So as far as go no go, it's definitely a go. Everything's kind of looking good. I have no reason to not just go after this project. Um, so we can see that I'm flying now up, and collisions aren't doing anything yet. We're just colliding. But it's an infinite asteroid field, so we can go forever. And one of the ideas was that the farther you go away from your base at the center where we spawned, the more rare the resources. So you have to go out farther, which should be more dangerous and whatnot, because you got to avoid asteroids. And then we have this part here where we can shoot asteroids. And I haven't really figured out just how much you need to shoot them, maybe once, but then they'll break down smaller and smaller as you would expect. And then eventually these little nuggets are going to be resources, or maybe we have to shoot these. You would think that after all that planning, I would know exactly how this is going to work out, but this was some of the last minute changes from all the cuts. Since I'm not going to have a mining laser, I'm shooting the asteroids, and what does that mean? Because in my original design, I was going to mine this rock, it was going to reveal its resources, and then I was going to extract the resources from the asteroid itself. But now we're breaking them apart, and then we're going to break. Probably these small ones are going to spawn resources, and then we'll collect those resources by getting near them. So that's how that's going to work. So yeah. So what else? So I was listening to a podcast on Spotify. It is the Make the Game with Matt Hackett, and in this episode, I don't know if he has the details on it. In this episode, they get into what I'm dealing with right now, which is I'm a fairly seasoned game developer. I don't have a lot of releases, but I've made a lot of games that haven't seen the light of day, and they talk about that a little bit. That how do we find the passion and the energy to make these bigger games, especially if you've been working on games that take 6 months to years, and how we get the weight of that project just kind of bears down on us, where it's really hard to muster up the day-to-day energy to work on it, because especially you're getting into a lot of the unfun parts of the project content for me, creating monsters for me, um, unique monsters, interesting monsters, and interesting levels. I always get all those, like I said before, I always get all those systems done, and then that's where I'm like, I'm done, I'm out. And so really, and that also gets into a conversation about specialization. And maybe we do a video on that later, but I really think people should be looking to specialize more, especially now that ChatGPT is accelerating things so quickly. But anyway, um, the big takeaway though was they had the same line of thinking, the two that are discussing in this podcast, which are, you really need to break your projects down, smaller iterations, smaller projects, because that's where a lot of our joy is. Even if you're just, whether you're going after something bigger, you really need to figure out ways to chop it down to release size chunks, right? Don't try to do a 2-year release size chunk, because that'll end up being 4-6 years. So go after 2-month iterations where you can release something and then build on that. Do another 2-month iteration and just build to the excitement, and kind of snowball it, right? Where just make the snowball grow bigger and bigger, and hopefully it gets momentum as it's rolling down the hill, and you just keep adding to it. So some really great takeaways there. But one of the other thoughts was, they, like me, they have a bunch of projects just sitting on the shelf that they worked on, and then it's just sitting back there. There's certainly some good stuff sitting in there waiting for the world to see. Eventually somebody else will come up with those ideas and release them if I don't do it first. And I'm already seeing that with some of my ideas. I have some slot machine type games that are mixed mechanics, and you're starting to see a lot of those come out. And even though I've been working on it for like 5 years, 6 years or something like that, off and on. But the weight of those projects, it grows on you as you get older. And I'm pretty old for being in game dev and making an asteroids-like game. But the weight of unfinished projects really grows to the point of you start to have this anxiety about not achieving your game dev dreams, right? Not getting those things out there. And you panic in a way, like, I shouldn't be working on an asteroids-like game. I should be spending all my time on one of my passion projects. And they made a good point, which is, as life changes, as your experiences change, you need to reevaluate sort of your capabilities against your expectations for yourself. As an adult, I work full time. I have kids, I have events, I'm doing all sorts of stuff. I can only spend a couple hours a day. And I really do need to take some of that mounting pressure of being a successful game dev off my shoulders and just enjoy the process, help myself with smaller projects and things like that, and not beat myself up because I keep failing to do the nearly impossible, right, as a solo dev. I need to adjust and say, what is the right size project for somebody that's my age, that's in my situation, that has my capabilities, my time. And it's doing things like this, coming up with maybe a couple of cool, fun mechanics and putting them together in a nice little playful way. And then if it's awesome, I build on it, but I iteratively build on it. And I stop just being a fool and going after those big, huge pipe dreams. And recognizing those a little bit better up front. So anyways, I mean, that's what we're doing here. We're solving that problem, the same problem that, other successful game devs have, many of us have. So I think I'm on the right track is how I feel. All right. With that, I'll see you in the next one. Hopefully it'll be a summary, probably closer to the weekend. I want to do these on a weekly basis, so I might just do one on like Friday or Saturday or something, and then make that my reoccurring sort of update. So, all right, we'll see you then. Cheers. Bye.